So this won't be like a breakdown like point number one, point number two, and point number three type of thing. It'll be more of like a discussion talk. But I guess we can start with like I guess price point. Um, with the price point of the watch and what you're getting out of it, it's actually pretty remarkable, especially when it comes to buying a daily wearable. Now, a lot of times when you do get a watch, and mind you, I am seeing it from the the non-watch enthusiasts, the middle ground who, okay, we'll have a couple watches here and there, not watch enthusiasts, but like listen to watch a little bit. The watch enthusiasts, and then the collectors itself, different categories. Now, I think overall, this kind of sort of fits into everything. At least with Hamilton, you have a history with it, especially with the Ventura. There's a lot of history with it. The original one, which I think I reviewed, let me pull it out. This one, it has pretty cool history, at least where it was worn by Elvis Presley. It was one of the few first watches with the quartz power. Also, besides Elvis Presley, was famously worn by, the cast of the Men in Black franchise. Starting from number one all the way to the one that Chris Hemsworth was in. So it's pretty cool. And then at least with the brand, I mean, besides its connection with Hollywood and whatnot, it also has ties. I know specifically with American history because this is an American. It was found in Pittsburgh. This is, I mean Philly. Yeah, this was a watch that was worn by the U.S. Army. And it's pretty cool. I mean, for a watch like this, I mean, you get pretty cool history for the value. Yes, you do have like Omegas, and obviously Omega has one of the coolest, I guess, in terms of history. Has the coolest thing with NASA, and it also has cinematic histories, especially with the Seamaster, where it's obviously well known by the James Bond franchise and whatnot. Obviously, got Rolex with a cool history, but also expensive. You also have other brands, like um, JLC, the reversal and whatnot. But with these, it's something practical, something you can get. I mean, besides G-Shocks and Casios, this is something with an extraordinary cinematic and historical value to it with the price point. I think this is something pretty cool. And I think in terms of the Swiss side, Hamilton is the best. But then within the Japanese side, I mean, besides mentioning Casio and, you know, G-Shock, I mean, with Seiko, if you exclude Grand Seiko, is one of the best valued watches, especially with the movements being one of the top leading ones in the industry. It is pretty amazing for what it is, especially the Seiko 5 movement. I mean, the Seiko 5 watch. I have the GMT one. I currently have on like a NATO strap. I mean, for its value, it's amazing, but for its practicality, overall, I think this is like the watch to get. And typically, if you talk to any a lot of watch enthusiasts, they would, if for people who are getting to at least watches, this is a watch that's always recommended, or any variations of Seiko watches as a brand. But I do love it, especially there was I forgot which film, but there was a film with Robert Redford, and it was about him cruising in his boat and gets hit by a shipping container. And if you look at his wrist, he's wearing a variation of the Seiko 5. Not this exact one, but a variation of this model. The one I have is the GMT one, which is pretty cool. Tells me different time zone, and it is useful for me since I'm a ASU student. So it's pretty neat. For the price and the specifications, I mean, you can't really beat it. Okay, I think this side is better. I'm shooting on my OnePlus Open. I decided to, instead of using the tablet mode selfie camera, I'm using the back camera, but have it unfolded to where I can also use a viewfinder. But okay, but I mean, it's pretty cool. I've already had recommended at least the Seiko watches to a lot of people, and two of my friends have bought it based on my recommendation, and they love it in terms of daily wearing it and something that they can wear with a suit. It's pretty cool. And then I, it is the thing where like there's a whole modding community around it, and I see people a lot on Facebook Market and eBay, and all over social media where they will mod the watch and make it look like a Rolex or something, and it's pretty cool. So there's a whole modding community, which is honestly pretty cool. And let's say if someone wanted an expensive watch, but I don't want to pay the high price tag, which is buy a modded version of this or buy this and then mod it up themselves, which isn't bad because it's at least you're getting the looks of a expensive watch, but at least paying less and at least there's that reliability in terms of the movement and whatnot. Uh, I was watching an episode. I forgot who it was. It was with Houdinki where they were talking to a celebrity, a comedian, on his watch collection, and he had a Seiko 5, and he said he bought in college, and it was one of his first few watches, his first automatic. He hadn't serviced it, and it was pretty impressive. That his Seiko 5 watch wasn't, you know, serviced, and the fact that it's still running pretty good to this day, I was like, it was pretty amazing, you know. I mean, I really love those two watches. Um, because of I know I bring up Hollywood a lot, but a lot of times people do use it as like a confirmation, more of a confirmation validation type thing, and a lot of times you see a couple of this, but more often like at least a Hamilton watch, and it's one of those few where it's like pretty cool, pretty reliable in terms of the Swiss side, best value for your buck, and I love it overall. But here's the thing where like I made this mistake a lot. And some, if you talk to a couple of watch enthusiasts, they would say the first couple watches are a mistake, but you can always learn from people who collect watches. And I've been kind of like, anytime I talk about watches to people, I tell them what to get and what not to get. And generally, I would tell them, firstly, first and foremost, buy what you like. Buy, firstly, based on what you have, like the money you have, what you can afford, but then secondly, buy a watch based on what you like. Really important. But third, you gotta do your research. First, do your research, narrow it down to what watches you like, and then narrow it even more down based on what you can afford. And I think that's really important. Um, so like for example, I love this watch. This is the Blancpain Swatch collab, the 50 Fathoms, the Indian Ocean. I really love it. Now, some people, I mean, well, not some, most people don't know what a Blancpain is. I didn't know the brand itself until like I saw the collaboration between Swatch and Omega, between Swatch and this when I started working over there. Now, then took notice when people started wearing these in public. Uh, couple couple months ago, I was in the Houston International Airport and I stumbled upon a guy wearing a Ocean Storm version of this, and it was pretty cool. And I was like, hey, that's a pretty cool watch, and he actually liked the compliment, the fact that I knew the watch, and hearing someone say that, it was pretty cool, coming from one watch enthusiast to another. But it's a thing where I like it. I like how lightweight it is, how fun it is, how cool it is, especially if you know what it is, especially the collaboration. It has a really cool backstory. Now, I've had people call it a toy and they don't know what this is all about, and I don't mind. And I think knowing that people don't know watches will call it a toy, it's fine, right? They're not gonna know what it is. Most people, when you talk to them, what whenever they think of watches, it's usually something like Casio G-Shocks, Timex, but most notably a Rolex. People who know a little bit would probably add Swatch and Omega to the brand, right? Especially with Omega also being a little bit well known, but that'll be the extent, really. But with these watches, it's pretty cool, honestly. You can purchase something like this and don't care what anyone says, unless if it's a watch enthusiast. If they point it out, say it's an amazing watch. That's all. That's all that matters, really. So yeah, I know some people buy watches based on hype and the cool factor. The two most notable ones are going to be the Tissot PRX and the Moon's watch. Now, I didn't know the hype around the Moon's watch itself. I didn't know. Well, so when I started watch collection, I didn't know much. I know a couple of things, but didn't know much. I think at least with the Omega Swatch collaboration, that got me more into the world of watches. I wasn't aware of the hype because, mind you, the people I usually hang around with and the people I mostly am around with don't know much about watches. And when I bought my first Moon's watch, which was the Mission to Saturn, I loved it. I wore it, and that's where that watch got me into a whole spiral of watch collection. Well, more in detail and actually understanding the world of watches even more. It was pretty cool. And by that point, I already had a Tissot PRX. But then I remember later that same year, a lot of people, mind you, that PRX I came out like a couple months ago, but it gained traction a little bit later, a couple months later. A lot of people were talking about this. Like a lot of non-watch enthusiasts that were looking to like budget watches, they were like talking about the PRXM and how cool it was. I know there's some people that actually have this watch and was sort of built around hype, which I'm gonna be honest. With the I haven't reviewed it yet, and I will do a video soon. But the PRX overall, I think it's a pretty cool watch. Actually, this design, this Tissot look actually did exist not that long ago. Actually, it was used by the C Star model. It was just borrowed to the PRX model. And this design itself isn't brand new to the watch industry. The Oyster Quartz from Rolex had this. It was the only time Rolex ever made a quartz watch, and yeah, they had the same design, and they did relaunch the Oyster look, Oyster uh, lineup with the Oyster Perpetual watch with the same design, and honestly, I think it's pretty cool. Now it is a pretty cool design watch, but I honestly think with all the hype around it, I don't think it's worth the hype. Especially when there's also other good watches within the same price category, and I feel like people need to be aware of like the amazing watches that are also in the same price category or in the same category in terms of sporty watches. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying this is a bad watch by all means, or it's a decent. It's an amazing, but it's not the only cool looking watch in the whole category. There's other cool watches. So yeah. It's kind of like saying Avengers is one of the best comic book movies of all time. It's like, yeah, it's sort of saying the best comic book movie of all time. Now, it's not, now it is a pretty good movie, but there's a lot of other good comic book movies out there. The Dark Knight, for example. You do have a couple, I think, cool Marvel movies like Captain America Civil War, Winter Soldier. You have films like the Guardians trilogy. You do also have the Suicide Squad. That was the James Gunn version. So there's a lot of cool comic book projects out there, and a lot of cool ones that center around like a team of people. My favorite. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like it, and everyone's gonna call me weird. I don't care. I do like the Snyder Cut. My favorite overall DC like team related, comic book related team uh film. But I mean, it's not like Avengers is a terrible film. I just think it's way overhyped. Not a bad film. I think it's one of the few good comic book movies out there. One of the few best ones, but it's not the only one. And it's more of a thing where you do want to explore Same with, I mean, cars and, the fashion industry. Same with tech, even with smartphones. And I have an experience with that because I was like a smartphone enthusiast, and I used to work for T-Mobile. And shout out to do want to shout out to Miles Above Tech, amazing content creator around technology, and I did get a cool picture with him. So yeah, big shout out to him. He was amazing. He did stop by my store last year in February. This was around I think like 2 3 weeks into us being open. So big shout out to him. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like there's amazing stuff within that category or within that community, and I don't think like saying that one thing is amazing and you should buy it because it's so cool. It's cool probably, but there's also other cool products in the same level as coolness in that. So that's pretty much it. But I also don't really think that you really need a watch collection to be part of the community or to be a watch enthusiast. And this is coming from a guy who spent a lot of money on watches and whatnot. If I have known better, I would have even done like a 3 watch collection and just gone my favorite watches of all time, which I feel like I sort of do, in that sense. Um, yeah, but it's the thing where like at this point, I feel like I'm more knowledgeable. I'm not saying that I have all the knowledge in certain category. I'm still learning, mind you, but I feel like I have more knowledge now compared to before. And with the knowledge I have now, I can have if I didn't buy all the watches from the start, I would have gone at least a 5 to 10 watch collection, and I would have been done with that. Even a 3 watch collection, that would have been good, and I would have bought the watches that I definitely loved. Um, Two of them I do have. I do want to get one more and kind of finish off my collection. So yeah. And I honestly think some people think that you do need an expensive watch, or at least one expensive watch. When I say expensive, like a four-digit number price, at least a minimum of a four-digit number price tag in the watch collection. You don't really need it. All you really need is to get a a reliable, good watch. You can get a Rolex, you can get an Omega, a Grand Seiko, or you can go the opposite route. Get Timex, which is a really good brand now. I feel like it's not really appreciated enough. Tudor, I honestly think it's a good brand. Um, I mean, I do love Seiko. I do love Hamilton, especially the khaki lineup and the Ventura lineup. I'm a big fan of G Shocks, honestly. Overall, Casios are also good. But also, I mean, I do love Swatch overall as a brand, not because I work there, but it's also like it's a pretty fun watch. And I'm not talking about the Moon Swatch, which I'm only holding it up because that's the only Swatch watch I have out right now. But typically with these are pretty fun, cool, and they're pretty reliable for the price. Even it's I actually honestly think it's the most fun watch that anyone can have, and it's sometimes cool to see people actually. So I do get a couple of people that actually will look at my wrist when I wear a Swatch watch and be like, "Oh, that's a pretty cool watch." And a lot of times they will compliment it just because of how fun and colorful it looks. Some of them do think it's a toy. I don't care. But I mean, by the end of the day, you should honestly buy a watch based on what you like and what you can afford. And I feel like, honestly, as long as you enjoy, that's all that matters. But also, don't force yourself into the watch community. If you're not a big watch dude, you don't need it. I personally think that you don't have to be in a watch community to enjoy watches. I just personally believe that everyone should have at least one good timepiece. It could be a Casio, Timex, it could be a Rolex even. As long as you have that one nice timepiece, I feel like everyone can enjoy a watch in that sense. So yeah. Thank you for watching. As always, please stay tuned for more content. Hit the subscribe button, share the video with everyone else. If you have any suggestions or recommendations on what I should do next for my videos, let me know. So yeah, peace out and stay safe.